Hello and welcome to part 3 of Amash on the Sofa. With us we have the lovely Teddy, who's Jean's gorgeous little dog. We have Jean MacDonald, we have Marie Kayali and Maria Goshdova. We're going to pick up our discussion of Amash on the Sofa with some comments that we were having a little break about, talking about Gary McKinnon. Nearly lost myself there. So, Marie, you were talking to us about Gary McKinnon and the fact that you'd just seen an interview, which is interesting. I haven't seen that one. Perhaps you could give us a bit of a lowdown on that interview.
Basically, I think it was a friend of his that went to school with him and was sort of maybe speaking his corner, you know, and he went through his life story, what kind of person he was, what kind of friends he had, how he actually got into hacking at school, basically, and how he got into the NASA files, whatever, and what he actually retrieved, and how they've actually, you know, nabbed him and trying to keep him quiet. And
we were talking about that in relation to Anonymous, weren't we? Because you were talking about how Anonymous has sent NASA some information.
It rang through to me because it's very short, a few minutes, but what they said is very deep and, you know, really fits in with my way of thinking. You know, the way they say they're interdimensional beings, they're malevolent, but we're led to believe they're not. The wool is being pulled over our eyes. They have information that they've extracted from NASA files, and they said they have enough information to blow the whole thing wide open, which they are sitting on at the moment. So let's just wait and see what they've got. I can't wait.
Yeah. So I wonder when that's going to come out, and whether there's going to be a sort of particular timing for that.
There's a couple of things they said as well, like their technology and the way they are, these ETs. It's incomprehensible to our way of thinking, and that's what I've been trying to say to people, and they say, explain what happened. You can't explain. It's just too complicated. It's very very deep.
I think most people have been kept with blinkers on for so long, to such a degree, that it is. It's understandable too, but it is almost inconceivable to comprehend.
It makes you sound like a mad person when you try to.
Well, we're all mad here then.
Yeah, it just makes you sound, oh my God, well, what is she on? But this stuff is
we're
real.
All the same thing.
This stuff is absolutely real, and if people only knew what was going on behind the scenes, they'd be shocked, absolutely shocked and horrified and disbelieving, you know.
Absolutely. So I also was going to come back to you, Jean. So thanks for that, Marie, because that's really interesting. Because I think Anonymous are doing some really amazing.
They definitely have something. They definitely have information. I just can't wait to see what it is. But it sounds like it's quite juicy.
And it also sounds like they're kind of maybe behind some of this outing of other stuff that's going out.
Definitely they are.
Planetary-wide. So
they're opening everything, which is great for. Everybody at last, you know, there's somebody there. Yeah. Well done, lads or girls.
So the naughty
boys,
lot, you're on notice.
Yeah. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, absolutely. Got our support.
Just let the UFO stuff out now. It's time. Everything else has come out apart from the UFO. We're waiting for that. So give us some snippets. That'll be great.
Absolutely. Jean, we were talking in our break about some of the work that we again referenced before about your teeth, and we've actually seen 1 or 2 pictures now. Can you just tell us again what you were talking before about this sort of crab-like element in your mouth and the teeth, and you'd actually paid to see a specialist, a private chap, to get an assessment. Is that correct? Can you tell us about that?
He is in Harley Street. And he was the dentist who originally did an implanted tooth at the front here on the right hand side, and I thought I would refer back to him because of his expertise. Unfortunately, he assured me that my teeth were perfectly okay, apart from needing one filling, which I knew was untrue. I also provided him with copies of the photographs I'd taken, which the photographs proved that, my teeth are not as they were.
Mm. And have you, did he comment on that at all? He just basically said everything's fine, there was no other comment?
He mysteriously produced a photograph from his archive from the 90s very quickly that sort of seemed to appear like the teeth as I now have. Which, I found strange that he could suddenly produce, an X-ray from the 90s. But I know that my teeth have been removed.
Mm. And so, Jean, where do you think this is ultimately leading, this manipulation of your physical body now, as well as, the psychological impact?
I've really no idea.
Okay.
Apart from the fact that have I spoken up about certain things that I probably shouldn't have done, as they've already narrowed my mouth and the shape of my head. Is there long-term intention to actually seal my mouth? Is it one of these?
It sounds like some kind of ritual
things,
process, but over a long term.
Yeah, I was told a couple of years ago by a prayer warrior that all this activity against me was being done by a cult, and they were dressed in white gowns. Now, I don't know anything about cults, but she had assured me that there were attachments on me and that she broke the strings at the time. And she prayed for me. She said I had a cut in my head, which I did at the time. And she said this had all been carried out by the cults. But because I have no recollection of what takes place, I can only put it down to mind control.
Yeah. Okay.
Because how do people enter your house without you unlocking the doors for them to come in?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, unless they already have managed to get keys and or have other entrances that you are not aware of.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Jean, you were also saying that you're aware of, is it three implants that you have that you can physically feel? You can feel them as nodules in the back of your head, but you also get physical reactions to certain conditions with them.
Yeah, all the time I'm here, throughout the day. Here, it's you can actually feel whatever's been done there. There's some activity going on.
Yeah.
The top of my head here is definitely something been put in there. And the other thing is, when I go to bed of a night, that if I'm in a dark room, and if you accidentally cough and that, there's like a magnetic field that goes right across the top of my head, down and back across, and it's like going round in a circle.
I get exactly the same thing I was saying to her earlier. I get exactly the same.
So just discussing this with, other people.
Can you explain that a little bit? haven't got a handle on that. So it's just when there's an impulse from the body, sort of a bit of a reaction, expression or explosion, if you like, in a coughing action. It causes.
It's because you're in a dark room,
right? You can
and you cough.
Yes.
Which makes your body react.
Yes.
Then there is like a magnetic. It goes round and round.
Is this something you perceive, you can see, you feel it, or all of those?
You can see it.
I see it, yeah.
Yeah, you actually see it. And then when I do put my head down to go to sleep, it's practically instantaneous, but it's like a computer shutting down. It goes in stages, and if you try and keep your eyes open, you've no chance, because it is like a computer that's shutting down.
So you think you're being remotely shut down, do you?
Yeah. And perhaps that's the way in which whatever activity takes place during the night when I'm supposed to be sleeping, I'm under control of some other force which I obviously must participate in. That is the frightening thing about the fact that all this is going on to me and my body, you know, whatever is happening, and it involves an awful lot more than what I've actually revealed today. My body's been quite mutilated, and I must be participating. I must at some point be participating, and it's not in the normal realm of who I am.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. No. I know what you're saying.
It's like as if there is another person. And when Teddy was very sick,
this is your dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
When he was very sick at 14 weeks, he had his rear foot broken by a bigger dog jumping on him, and I slept downstairs on the kitchen floor with him, and I've been told that he had to have cage rest, but it's as well I did, because of certain things that happened to him during the night. But I recorded the sound whilst I was downstairs, and suddenly if you listen to this sound of me breathing, which was quite a shallow breathing, you then heard clicks, and as if the door was being opened, and then it was a different breathing that took over. It was a very deep, scary type of breathing, as if somebody was on a ventilator. And,
really?
Yeah.
And it was only the one breathing. There wasn't anybody else breathing.
No.
It was just, as far as you were aware, it was.
It reminded me of a breathing I'd heard in New Zealand when I thought I was in a room with 3 other females, and suddenly in the middle of the night there was this very heavy, what sounded like a male breathing, and when I looked across at the bed that was supposed to be occupied by a female, whoever was in it was wrapped in a duvet so that you couldn't see who was there.
So that's on a recording that you've got as well?
It was, but it's been removed from my iPhone, unfortunately. I had quite a few recordings, and I think I downloaded them on one of my Apple books, but a lot of material from my Apple books has been removed.
I don't know if you want to mention this, and we, just say if you don't, about a picture that you found on your phone one morning of yourself.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to go into any further detail about that picture and what it was of exactly, but obviously it wasn't you taking the picture.
It wasn't me taking the picture. I'd left my iPhone running so that it could record through the night with any movement that took place in the bedroom. And when I woke the next morning, whatever I'd left it running had been removed, and the picture that was on the iPhone was me looking into the camera of the iPhone, fully awake. And I have no recollection of ever having that taken. But I also found other footage on my iPhone back in probably April. I'd again left it running one night only to waken up and find it been switched off. But the piece of footage there is something I haven't recorded, and it looks like my naked torso. It's very quick, very brief, and the camera's moving the whole time.
It's very interesting, this, and quite disturbing too. There's a book called, I forget who it's by now, but Satellite Terrorism in the USA. Do recommend reading that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a small book, but it is about an anaesthetist, actually, who worked for a company in Texas, a medical company, who eventually, and this anaesthetist who's written the book, found the boss man playing away from home, and sort of guy didn't think that was okay, and anyway told the boss that he about his feelings. Anyway, from that time onwards, his life for many years and years was made hell. And he, clever guy, he just thought, how can this possibly be happening? And the only thinking that he could, rationalization, was that there had to be satellite downtime used by these nefarious bodies to simply, make his life hell and kill him. They tried to kill him and his girlfriend. But it's very worthwhile having a read of that little book to put some of the things into perspective and also make perhaps some sense. I mean, everything was touched. They were in and out of his home, did unspeakable things to his girlfriend in a drugged state.
Yeah.
Well, something horrible happened to my, the boyfriend I mentioned in my interview, the first boyfriend I had when I was young, 17 or 18, last year. I haven't seen him since then, since I was 18 or whatever, but my sister still lives in Birmingham. That's where he lives. She was in a shop and someone tapped her on the shoulder. She turned around, it was him. She was, oh my God, and he was talking funny. And she says, he was just saying, hello, how's Marie? Still asked about me. And he was talking funny. She says, what happened to you? And he says, I tried to cut my tongue out. And she said, why on earth would you do that? And he said, because I'm not supposed to speak. And that's all the information she gave me. But I thought that was quite disturbing. Like, actually, he's tried to cut out his own tongue. I think that was probably induced. That wouldn't have been something he would have done himself. Yeah. That's horrible. So that happened to us years ago. So if he's only done that recently in the last 2 years, obviously he's still going through something as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no contact and no idea what he's been doing for these years, except that bit of information. My sister just bumped into him by accident. Yeah. He actually saw her and came into the shop. But I just thought that's horrific. So it does look like an attack. Yeah. That somebody's definitely shutting people up.
Yes, and clearly I don't know about you folks, and Marie as well, but it doesn't seem like this has much to do, if anything, with the ET side. It sounds very much like...
Yeah, I really don't think so, because they help you in one way. Why would they be doing that? I get a lot of help, and I feel that they are good. I still, at the back of my mind, I might find out something. Maybe my, memories are distorted. Like, I have heard that they do implant fake memories, and when you do get regress and find out the truth, it's completely different to what you actually thought. But I've had a lot of daytime things, where a lot of good things happen. So I know definitely they do care about. They are concerned, basically, because I've had visits and ships outside when I've been really upset and depressed, and just really upset about things. So it looks like they turn up when I'm at a very low ebb, and it does sort of seem that they do have some sort of concern. I mean, why would they bother, if I was upset?
Well, I know. I mean, a lot of people think that there's not a lot from the overall picture that's being presented. That it's done covertly, and all the other issues and a lot of health issues that people come back with from having experiences. But I think also the problem is our lack of ability to interact, and also we're kept from that by being mainly unconscious about it. But
that's the thing. That's what annoys me. I think I'm capable of having a conversation or comprehending what they can tell me. I've been waiting for years to find out what this is all about. So I think it's easy. They could easily explain something. Why is it so secretive? Why is it so secretive? And why do they not tell you anything? This is annoying.
Can I just add that what I have discovered from having met other people who are targeted is that they isolate you. They work.
Yeah,
they
definitely.
take years working on you to isolate you.
Well, you tend to isolate yourself as well. I do tend to isolate myself as well. From reactions from people, and just people just get on my nerves sometimes in general. I do like my own company, I think. So I think it's more me than maybe they. I don't know if they have something to do with that, but yeah, I do.
But once you're isolated, you see, you've nobody to confide in, so they can do what they want. And you can't go to your GP because there's every chance that they could section you because what you're saying.
They can't section you for that, surely, can they?
If you've got a dentist that's saying your teeth are perfectly okay, and yet you've got the photographs that prove what's
they have a hard time sectioning me, I can tell you. It wouldn't be that easy. There's no way I would let that happen in a million years.
What about you, Marie? Have you had any other experiences maybe on impacting your physicality or anything like that? Has that come across your field of experience?
The only thing is that my peeling skin I told you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
can you tell us a little bit about that? Because there was somebody else that I've spoken to who's an experiencer who was mentioning just that fact.
I got first, it was years ago when I was in high school. It started just my skin starts to peel from my hands only. It's happened just once or twice a year, and then it was more often. And just lately it happened to me that whole my body starts to
Your whole body
began
peeling?
to peeling of the skin.
And was it sore or was
It was very itchy.
Very itchy. So that's interesting too, because I know again one of the experiencers who ended up having a whole lot of blood work done because of that same issue. But I don't know whether it was their whole body, but it must have been significant.
It was whole body.
Yeah,
Whole
for
body.
them too. I mean, to have some major blood works done, because you wouldn't just do it for a bit of eczema or dermatitis. It's clearly not one of those kind of conditions. It's something very unusual.
Very odd, isn't it?
Yeah, and I do know, and hopefully one day we will get an interview with that person, that they came back saying that there was definitely something different, non-human, about the blood works done. And that was, we've tried to find they've tried to find their medical records because this was in the UK, this was done about 10 or 11 years ago, and interestingly enough, those medical records aren't available. I did kind of tell them that may be the case, and the surgery where it was done is no longer there, or
Oh yes, that was
all of that kind of.
Been trying to get my dental records from this for ages as well, and they've moved, and my files have moved, and I will catch up with them. I have caught up with the person that's supposed to have them now. The surgery moved, the dentist moved, but I said, well, even if he moves, he's not going to take everything with him, is he?
Yeah.
They should be still there. So I might get them eventually. I have some x-rays, the photocopies, but I want the report where I was paralysed for 4 months and things like that.
Yes, just for the record, because we don't have that story here either.
Yeah.
You had something removed, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I know it's on your interview, but just for this bit here, and when you did have it removed, you were left
the Novocaine, it felt like the Novocaine didn't wear off, which is absolutely ridiculous because it's only a mild.
4 months.
Yeah, 4 months. I was completely paralysed in my face. It was horrible.
Which is rare, unusual, and
the doctors all said it was completely rare, and nobody knows. Oh, there's no reason for it. This shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. It doesn't happen, but
and we
it
don't
did
know
happen.
what it was that was taken out, do we?
No idea, because obviously they sucked it up with the dental thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I should have said, keep that, I want it, or I really need that, but it just didn't occur to me, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me, because that should have been the first thing on my agenda, the first thing I said, I need to keep that, whatever you get. But of course I didn't, and it's gone.
But again, that seems to happen. That seems to be really common. There's sort of an amnesia about that as soon as it happens.
I just can't believe I overlooked it. I can't believe I didn't insist on getting it. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because in the break we were also sort of just going on from that, talking about time travel as well, weren't we, and remote viewing.
Yeah.
And what you were saying something really interesting about the time travel element, that you felt that you were perhaps going back in time
to the past. Definitely, yeah.
Yes.
I think definitely I am. There's been too many things now. I wasn't sure at the beginning, but I've been making notes. It's been about 10 different things, and there's no other explanation for it unless somebody is playing, mind games and bringing things up that I've thrown away 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, and things just keep appearing in my house that I know I threw away years ago. Toys belong to my daughter, just after we've been talking about them. So I don't know if it's one of us trying to leave signs, or it's just silly things, it's just weird, just really silly.
Yeah, I know other experiences who have said that they've had some kind of time travel element aspect to their experience overall, involving people they know now, or perhaps even people that when this happened to them that they wouldn't have known at that time. But
well, I used to think I was getting maybe a vision sometimes of the future, but now I know it's not the future, it's the past. I've seen it before, and it's not the future. You're not seeing the future. I've seen it before in the past, and that's what it is. I'm sure it's it's the past rather than the future.
And Marie, were you talking about some time travel aspect as well Was there something about that, or was I imagining that?
No, I just said what I think. I think that they are keeping us in this time, that they are, for example, let's say we are 2012, and I think probably they cannot get farther than 2012, so they are turning back time, and we are going still all the way back. So we are living, for example, I just made up now, just an example, 100 years. In these few years, they're going still in a loop.
I think they're changing things. I think there's certain people that can change the events of things
Of the past.
and I think
Or, yeah.
go back to the past and change the future.
Yes,
change it
so-
from what it is now,
yes,
basically.
and then that will change the
So
future.
I think people are being used to do this. I really do. I mean, do you ever get a memory you think somebody is dead and they're not dead, and you think, well, I'm sure they died last month or something. I'm sure I read it in the paper, and then they're not dead; they're still alive. So it's like it's happened already, but then it's rewound back and playing out differently, or. It's hard to explain, but I've encountered that quite a few times now, and it's getting ridiculous.
And do you think any of that is affects current time, or impacts anything that might?
I think a lot of it is. It must be. It must be. Otherwise, what would the purpose be for?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
It must be changing something, or the events maybe are panning out differently, or they don't like the way it's been panned out, and people are sent back to change it, and it just keeps repeating. And my daughter used to say this years ago, time is a loop, we're just going around in circles, and she's got Groundhog Day so many times, and she said, it's not premonition, not deja vu, I've seen this day, I've been here 3 times. And
that's interesting.
She was saying that from a young age. And
really, so that really makes you wonder what on earth.
now I'm beginning to realise what she's talking about, because it's happening to me now, and I'm thinking, she's right. I'm definitely seeing. It's not the future I'm getting premonitions about. It's because I've seen it already in the past before.
That's intriguing. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to ask. I'm really interested in the ET technology, and I used to if I go to bed, I'm lying there thinking. I've asked them questions and hoped to get the answers for it, and I've had the answers the next day. Yeah. And I have asked them about their technology, and the answer I got was that they communicate with particles, communicate and manipulate particles.
Yeah.
That's how they do everything, basically. Because if you think about it, if you can manipulate particles from when it's forming, you could do anything you want. You could do anything.
Yeah.
It's endless, and I think this is what they're doing. Yeah. This is how their technology works. They communicate with particles.
Marie, you'll be creating this technology now. Then
you've got to communicate with particles, tell them what to do. But that's what they do, because they use a mixture of high technology and their minds as well. A lot of things are mind control. I know that some of their ships are mind controlled.
I think that they are trying to keep this time. Around this time and changing things in their favour, of course.
I don't know if it's in their favour. I don't know how it could be in their favour. I don't know what they're doing. But
they're trying to have the people only for themselves. They are sucking our life essence, and they're trying to keep you or the souls in your body. So they can have you forever, so to say, or till your essence will be gone.
So it'll be an eternal resource.
Yeah,
that scared me a little bit.
Because what I think that the good aliens or extraterrestrials, they change the timeline, and the timeline is going towards that, and they don't want that. The bad guys don't want that, so they're trying to keep us back all the time, going in a loop till they changed it back to what it was before.
Well, that's an interesting one. Yes, I hadn't quite thought of that one.
So
before.
you sort of connect that with the Mayan calendar, like the 5,000-year cycles or something like that, you mean?
I don't know whether it is in there connected to that, but I think that this timeline was supposed to go into the terrible disaster towards people, that people will live forever and not able to die, and those gummy people, which are greys, will eat these life essence, and they will use people and human souls for their favor.
I think it's happened before.
That's what it's supposed to do. But I think something terrible happened in faraway future, and that's why the extraterrestrials came back in time here on Earth, trying to change that. And they changed, as they are much developed than these bad guys, so they change the timeline and make a new path for our time, and these bad guys are trying to keep us here in this time up to 2012, so they change it back to the old timeline where we're supposed to go. But of course the good aliens, they don't want that, because it will affect as well them.
I think we have reached a certain level hundreds of times, even probably thousands, millions of times in the past, and it seems that we get to a certain technological level and then it's all wiped out and all these civilizations are gone, all the technology is gone, we're finding artifacts and thinking, well, it must be aliens that made those. But I think we do get to an advanced stage and then we're wiped out. That's as far as you go, and you can't, because there has been evidence of nuclear wars in the past with nuclear power. You know, so we did have technology and all these things, monuments and things you see, and they're finding things under the sea, and there's towns and everything else. But they weren't built with a chisel and a hammer. I think we found this tool and they made this thing. You know, we did have technology, of course we did. I'm sure we did, 100% positive. And I don't think they were ETs that made everything. It's like, you know, they say, well, you know, we can't have been any good. Anything good that they find, it must be ET. But I do think we have been in cycles and reached a certain technological level, and maybe it's wiped out and Earth recycles itself and we're all recycled again. And I think that's happened over and over and over.
Yeah.
Whether it's us coming back or new generations, I don't know. I'm not too sure if I believe in reincarnation that much, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
what's the think on that? Yeah,
it's an interesting one.
There's only been a couple of cases that I actually believe reincarnation, and the cases that I really believe have suddenly been found to be fake. You know, the 3-year-old little girl in Sri Lanka, her family put her up to it, where she was saying, I was a man, and she had the scar, and they took her back to the village. And I thought, well, a 3-year-old child, you've got to believe a 3-year-old child, how would she know? And I thought that was a genuine case until it came out that her family had put her up to it, you know, for money. And so I'm not convinced of reincarnation at the moment. I think our genes hold memories, and what people are actually seeing, or maybe with the, you know, when they talking about regression or a past life, I think they're picking up their ancestors' memories rather than past lives.
Who knows?
That's just my opinion. It's probably wrong, but I'm not convinced of reincarnation at the moment, because there's been no real evidence that you can say 100% that's reincarnation, because I don't think there is. I don't know, maybe wrong. But I've researched it and I'm not convinced of any of it at the moment.
Yes, I must say I've worked with a lot of people, and you can call it reincarnation or call it whatever you like, but there's definitely some process where you can access real deep experience, you know, memory experience, sensory experience of events that you don't have any aspect for or understanding for this, you know, this current life. So whatever that is, I don't know, because it's not necessarily corporeal either. Sometimes it's completely non-physical. So very interesting. And we're joined now by Jeff Scott, and we've got some comments from him on our Bodenham Manor meeting. So Jeff, over to you, and then we'll pick up on the technology that we were just discussing.
Hello. After watching the Bodenham Manor video the other week, I was quite amused by some of the comments that people were making about the secret underground facility at Junction 6 of the M40 and other facilities that are in the area, namely an NSA communications facility that is about half a kilometre from Christmas Common, where the MOD antenna is up on the hill. I found it quite amusing to see that people had brought it out into the public spotlight, because it does need to be. So
were they agreeing with you then, Jeff? Were they saying yes, this is true?
There was basically discussion between people about someone had looked at Google Earth.
Oh right, yeah.
Had mentioned it's the beveled looking reservoir type Earth formation,
right,
in a light coloured field. And I did have to put in a comment and sort of give them a bit of information, exactly sort of detailing locations of certain places.
So it's generated some research then outside.
Yeah, it was good to see it being broached and brought out into the public.
Yeah, excellent.
Sort of under the spotlight, so to speak.
Yeah. And did you get any?
Sorry, what is that information? You know, people who don't have internet can want to see the YouTube thing, so you need to explain that and actually mention the actual information.
What the locations of the?
Yeah, what they're talking about and what the people are saying, because otherwise nobody has a clue if they haven't seen the YouTube thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Basically, there is an underground secret command bunker by Junction 6 of the M40 motorway. This place has been there for years. A friend of mine lived in the area since he was a small child. He used to ride motorbikes in the area, so he knows for a definite that it's there and has been there since the 70s, I think.
Right.
But there are other facilities about 2 kilometres away, which I've personally walked through and have a picture taken by high-end security equipment.
Right.
And subsequent months and months of surveillance on my person and my friends and my motor vehicle being bugged. It's good to see it all coming out in the wash. So
Yes,
to speak.
sort of the public comments and sort of validation of it through Google Earth and that kind of research.
People are like talking amongst themselves, trying to identify the locations
Yeah.
of these places.
Yeah.
Which it's about time these secret facilities got dug up, so to speak, and put out there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
But I was quite interested in what Marie was saying about technology. That's, you know, our civilizations have come to a certain point where
Yes.
they've achieved a certain amount of technology, and then it's gone down and like built back up.
Yeah.
I find information about sound quite interesting. That is quite a high-end technology, which has either been suppressed or lost to the public knowledge.
The Egyptians used to use it, apparently, and that's what they say. To levitate things. They used to use sound to levitate.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard of that.
With my experience of going to parties out in the woods and stuff, I always found it quite strange why the authorities would try to avidly shut them down and crush anybody that was trying to make noise out in the field, like with a few friends. And recently I've heard information pertaining to the healing properties of low sub-bass frequencies of sound.
Okay. That's
And,
interesting.
Yeah, that
They
brings a
call
new...
it, what's the name? They have a word for it, something... Maggio, Del Maggio, Formaggio...
Oh, the
something like that.
Formaggio.
Something
yeah,
like
the
that,
sol-
yeah. Is that what you're talking about? It's
Solfeggio.
frequencies.
Yes,
yeah.
I can
That's
see it.
some-
I just can't.
Yeah.
I find it quite interesting. If you was off planet in Earth's orbit and you looked down, you'd see a bunch of people trying to produce low sub-bass frequencies, which are known to have healing properties.
Right. Yeah.
And then you would see a different group of people trying to shut down and crush.
Yeah.
It's quite revealing when
Yeah.
if you was to look at it from
Yeah.
like a higher perspective. These two groups, one trying to produce healing frequencies and the other trying to crush anything to do with them.
Yes. I
find
think
that
that's
interesting.
quite interesting too, because I think definitely that sort of say if we're talking about the rave
There
scene,
seems to be like an agenda
is very managed. I was just going to say very
quash.
And we're just stuck in the middle.
managed. Yeah.
To quash anything that might be
Mm.
possibly positive for
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah.
It's
And
quite an
also
interesting
maybe that
aspect.
they facilitate certain ones to like a
Do evil deeds, maybe.
to try and because there's going to be different states of consciousness present at any of these events normally, different levels of consciousness. I know I've spoken to someone in America who has had, a bit like yourself, extensive experience of the very anomalous events happening, and not least seeing beings morphing, changing shape, manifesting instantly. And maybe it's because they're in a particular location, and also because the frequencies are of a particular type with all the different levels of consciousness present.
I've been to parties before where they've sent in riot police to
Really?
disperse them, like
Wow.
50 riot police with shields and crash helmets and batons.
Wow.
One
Gosh.
example is a party. It was a birthday party. It was thrown in the woods. It was up near Chesham Boyce in Buckinghamshire.
Okay.
Me and my friends referred to it as the party in Tony Blair's back garden because it was near to Chequers, the Prime Minister's country residence. I got there with a girlfriend and her friend. It was about midnight. We parked the car. We see a few other cars parked, people milling about. What we did see was a dark blue Land Rover, unmarked dark blue Land Rover parked up with nobody in it. Me, my girlfriend and her friend proceeded to go into the woods to head for this party in the direction of the sound. We got a couple of 100 yards through the woods and all of a sudden the spotlights turned on, and I've had a police officer with a military SA-80 assault rifle, army assault rifle with a night sight on top of it. One was holding the rifle with a night sight pointing it at me, and the other one had the spot lamp pointed at me. And I said, put your hands where I can see them. So I put my hands up. My girlfriend and a friend done the same. So have you got anything on you that you shouldn't have? And I wasn't about to divulge that sort of information to someone pointing a rifle at me. So I said no. He come over, the one with the spot lamp, checked me, didn't find anything untoward on my person. And he said, right, go back the way you came. So we retraced our steps through the woods. I said to my girlfriend, I'm not going home, I've drove up here, like put a tenner's worth of petrol in the car. So as soon as we got out of sight of the policeman with the rifle and the spot lamp, we've gone across the woods and come in from another angle, and we've actually got to the party at a whale of a time until about 6-7 in the morning, when his riot police started walking through the forest towards us, all these yellow jackets. And a friend of mine, Adam, is a fire juggler. He had his fire staff, it had gone out. One of the policemen took an interest in the fire staff, and oh yeah, I've always, he's started engaging my friend in conversation, and we spoke to him for a couple of minutes about fire juggling, and in the end he was quite an approachable police officer, and in the end me and my friend have ended up questioning him. We said, well, what are you here then for? What are you stopping the party for? It's only a birthday party. And he said, well, Tony Blair is actually in residence at the moment. If he wasn't, we'd allow it to continue, but because he's at home, we've been asked to come and stop it.
You're keeping him awake, are you?
I do
The
think
healing vibrations might reach him.
Keep
Good
him
God.
covered.
yeah, exactly. They might turn him into a nice bloke or something if he hears some of the bass line. I think they would have stopped it anyway, even if he wasn't
Yeah.
at home in residence. So yeah, it took about an hour, but they've turned it all off and we had to leave.
Yeah, that's
But
amazing.
that's not the first time I've had riot police come to a party. Another time was near
Does seem like
Newbury.
overkill. Good Lord.
Yeah, exactly.
Inappropriate.
We've had the riot police come to the party and try to stop it. It was daylight, it was early hours of Sunday morning. I've actually had military intelligence come past me and check my back pockets for weapons. They tapped me on the back pockets, both cheeks, to check both pockets. I've clocked the bloke that did it. I looked around and I've seen his face before, right? And he was obviously with another one of his oppos. But yeah, they do come in and check you out. And as I was under
All
surveillance
management
anyway.
of containment management and
It's just a big control thing.
yeah. And thanks for sharing that, Jeff. That's really interesting, and it's nice to know that the public are doing their own research on the back of what you've been able to say.
Yeah, it's good to see that there is discussion amongst people
Yeah.
as to these secret
Good.
facilities.
Well, it's what it's about, isn't it? And Marie, with the ET stuff and the UFO stuff and all the rest of that, again, it's great because you've again been a point of a lot of research, people doing research for themselves and exploring issues across the globe, it seems, not just in the UK. And
I've no experience with bases, or I've
No.
never seen any military in any experience I've had or anything like that, so I'm totally
yes, that's a
unaware of
different thing.
where the bases are.
Well,
or
I'm
what they
looking
are.
forward to Marie's technology that she's going to be spearheading down the line. So we look forward to that. So I'm going to say thanks to Marie Gostova, and thanks to Jeff Scott for joining us,
Thank you.
and Marie Kayali, and thanks to Jean MacDonald, who's making a cup of tea. So thank you again for joining us for Amash on the Sofa, and I hope we'll do this again. It's been great, a bit different and interesting. So this is a thank you to our guests from our Amash on the Sofa, a new format, and I think it's worked really well, and I want to thank all our guests once again for joining us and sharing with us in this informal chat, and I'm sure, like me, you've picked up quite a bit of information. We look forward to seeing you at another Amash on the Sofa, who knows when. Watch this space. Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Avondale Studios. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and thanks for all your support. See you again. Bye.
And that she broke the strings at the time, and she prayed for me. She said I had a cut in my head, which I did at the time, and she said this had all been carried out by the cults. But because I have no recollection of what takes place, I can only put it down to mind control.
Yeah. Okay.
Because how do people enter your house without you unlocking the doors for them to come in?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, unless they already have managed to get keys and or have other entrances that you are not aware of.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Jean, you were also saying that you're aware of, is it you believe three implants that you have that you can physically feel? You know, you can feel them as nodules in the back of your head, but you also get physical reactions to certain conditions with them.
Yeah, all the time I'm here, you know, throughout the day. Here, it's you can actually feel whatever's being done there. There's some activity going on.
Yeah.
Top of my head here is definitely something being put in there. And the other thing is, when I go to bed of a night, that if I'm in a dark room, when, you know, and if you accidentally cough and that, there's like a magnetic field that goes right across the top of my head, down and back across, and it's like going round in a circle.
I get exactly the same thing I was saying to her earlier. I get exactly the same.
So just discussing this with, you know, other people.
Can you explain that a little bit? Haven't got a handle on that. So it's just when there's an
if people only knew what was going on behind the scenes, they'd be shocked, absolutely shocked and horrified and disbelieving, you know. But
absolutely. So I also was going to come back to you, Jean. So thanks for that, Marie, because that's really interesting. Because I think Anonymous are doing some really amazing.
They definitely have something. They definitely have information. I just can't wait to see what it is. But it sounds like it's quite juicy. And
it also sounds like they're kind of maybe behind some of this outing of other stuff that's going out.
Definitely, they are. Yeah,
planetary wide. So,
they're opening everything, which is great for. Everybody at last, you know, there's somebody there. Yeah. Well done, lads or girls.
So the naughty
boys,
lot, you're on notice.
Yeah. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, absolutely. Got our support.
Just let the UFO stuff out now. It's time. Everything else has come out apart from the UFO. We're waiting for that. So give us some snippets. That'll be great.
Absolutely. Jean, we were talking in our break about some of the work that we again referenced before about your teeth, and we've actually seen one or two pictures now. Can you just tell us again what you were talking before about this sort of crab-like element in your mouth and the teeth, and you'd actually paid to see a specialist, a private chap, to get an assessment. Is that correct? Can you tell us about that?
He is in Harley Street. And he was the dentist who originally did an implanted tooth at the front here on the right hand side. And I thought I would refer back to him because of his expertise. Unfortunately, he assured me that my teeth were perfectly okay, apart from needing one filling, which I knew was untrue. I also provided him with copies of the photographs I'd taken, which the photographs proved that, you know, my teeth are not as they were.
Mm. And have you? I mean, did he comment on that at all? He just basically said everything's fine. There was no other comment.
He mysteriously produced a photograph from his archive from the 90s very quickly that sort of seemed to appear like the teeth as I now have. Which, I found strange that he could suddenly produce, an X-ray from the 90s. But I know that my teeth have been removed.
Mm. And so, Jean, where do you think this is ultimately leading, this manipulation of your physical body now, as well as, the psychological impact?
I've really no idea.
Okay.
Apart from the fact that have I spoken up about certain things that I probably shouldn't have done, as they've already narrowed my mouth and the shape of my head. Is there long-term intention to actually seal my mouth? Is it one of these?
It sounds like some kind of ritual
things,
process, but over a long term.
Yeah, I was told a couple of years ago by a prayer warrior that all this activity against me was being done by a cult, and they were dressed in white gowns. Now, I don't know anything about cults, but she had assured me that there were attachments on me.
Hello and welcome to part 3 of Amash on the Sofa. With us we have the lovely Teddy, who's Jean's gorgeous little dog. We have Jean MacDonald, we have Marie Kayali and Maria Kostova. We're going to pick up our discussion of Amash on the Sofa with some comments that we were having a little break about, talking about Gary McKinnon. Nearly lost myself there. So, Marie, you were talking to us about Gary McKinnon and the fact that you'd just seen an interview, which is interesting. I haven't seen that one. Perhaps you could give us a bit of a lowdown on that interview.
Basically, I think it was a friend of his that went to school with him and was sort of maybe speaking his corner, and he went through his life story, what kind of person he was, what kind of friends he had, how he actually got into hacking at school, basically, and how he got into the NASA files, whatever, and what he actually retrieved, and how they've actually, nabbed him and trying to keep him quiet.
And we were talking about that in relation to Anonymous, weren't we? Because you were talking about how Anonymous has sent NASA some information.
It rang through to me because it's very short, a few minutes, but what they said is very deep and, really fits in with my way of thinking. The way they say they're interdimensional beings, they're malevolent, but we're led to believe they're not. The wool is being pulled over our eyes. They have information that they've extracted from NASA files, and they said they have enough information to blow the whole thing wide open, which they are sitting on at the moment. So let's just wait and see what they've got. I can't wait.
Yeah. So I wonder when that's going to come out, and whether there's going to be a sort of particular timing for that.
There's a couple of things they said as well, like their technology and the way they are, these ETs. It's incomprehensible to our way of thinking, and that's what I've been trying to say to people. And they say, explain what happened. You can't explain. It's just too complicated. It's very complicated, very deep.
I think most people have been kept with blinkers on for so long, to such a degree, that it is. It's understandable too, but it is almost inconceivable to comprehend.
It makes you sound like a mad person when you're trying to.
Well, we're all mad here then.
Yeah, it just makes you sound, oh my God, what is she on? But this stuff is
we're
real.
all the same thing.
This stuff is absolutely real.